Hello, I am here with a quick review of this Lululemon yoga mat. So they only really have one main kind of mat, and this is that one. So I had seen everyone use these at all of my yoga classes, but I never thought to get it because I thought, well, Lululemon is known for yoga clothes, not yoga mats, but they're super popular, and eventually my friend had one. I stood on hers and I thought, wow, that's really soft. And eventually, after trying it out just briefly, I decided that it would be worth a shot. So I have really liked it. My favorite thing about this is the grip. So when I started doing hot yoga, I always felt like I needed to have a grippy towel over my old mat and spray it down with water and make sure that I can grip it. And every now and then in a yoga class, even having to hold the sides to not slide forward and down dog. But I definitely don't feel like I have to do that with this mat. Something that stopped me from getting this mat earlier was that I would see a lot of wear and tear on people's mats around the class. And the mat that I had is one that has a lifelong guarantee where it's made out of plastic, so it's not gonna break down over time. So you can practice on it for years and years, and then get a new one if you want, but not necessarily need to get a new one. Whereas this, I would see them wearing out and know, okay, someday that's not gonna last forever. What an employee told me at the Lululemon store is that this mat is natural rubber, and so that's why it breaks down as opposed to the plastic ones that can last forever. So I'll show you to give you an idea of the grip here. So if I'm here and kind of pushing my hands forward, they're not going anywhere, and then going up into down dog, I can really put as much weight as I want to into my hands to push them forward and push my chest towards the back of my mat, and I don't feel like my hands are going anywhere. I can move them, and then that hand that's still on the ground feels really nice and stable. Another thing that I had seen people do with these mats was that even in a super sweaty hot yoga class, they weren't using a towel. And the reason why a lot of people use a towel in a hot class is because they're sweating and they don't want their sweat pooling up on a plastic mat and making it really slippery and kind of dangerous. But what this mat does with water is that it just absorbs it. So I'll show you here. If I just take our spray bottle cleaning solution and spray it on the mat, almost immediately that gets absorbed. So it's definitely more slick than the dry mat was. But of course, your mat isn't going to get this damp this fast in an actual class. So once this dries, and I do feel like it dries fairly quick, it's going to look damp for a while. It takes a minute for that to totally evaporate. But in my experience, I've never been in a class using my mat and felt like this got too slippery to use. Okay, the other side of the mat. So this is a reversible mat. Also, this is the 5mm. I think online they have an option for a 3mm. That could be good if you're traveling with your mat or if you just don't need as much cushion, but I think most people would like having the 5mm. Okay. So this other side is it's more textured. I'll show you. It's not that natural rubber, not as grippy, it's still pretty grippy. So the recommendation that I received for what to do with this other side is if you're going to a class that's more high impact, where there's gonna be more movement, more jumping, such as a sculpt class or a HIIT class, that then you can turn your mat over so that as you're doing all of those movements, you still have the cushioning. You don't need as much of that grip because you're not doing as many things like down dog. But since it doesn't get worn down as easily, you're not wearing down the rubber side of your mat with those higher intensity movements, but you still get the benefits of this nice padded side. So overall, I definitely would recommend this mat. I have had mine for about, I think, a little less than a year, and I'll show you the wear that it shows. Really not a ton. So back where my feet are all the time, you can see a little bit of the change in the color, but it's not totally worn away. So this layer of rubber here is fairly thin, and so once it really does start to wear away, you can start to see that color underneath and start to see more of this navy. But overall, I think it's held up really well. So I would recommend it. If you have tried it and like yours, go ahead and leave a comment, or if you have any questions, let us know. But overall, definitely would recommend.